This is what we've got coming up for you today in the All Things Book Show.
So I was trying to think of original places where you wouldn't really get a lot of crime. So I've set one in a pub in the countryside in Kent. I've set one in a Scottish castle up in Scotland, and I've set the third one in a monastery in Wales, because I thought, well, not likely to get a lot of crime in those sort of places, and what sort of person could get into all of those sort of places? And of course, it's somebody who is a very high class chef who's employed.
Welcome to the All Things Books Show, hosted by award-winning best-selling mystery author Dawn Brookes. Publishing has changed beyond recognition in recent years. Join Dawn as she interviews authors, narrators, and many more from across the creative community. This inspiring and informative show is for readers and writers.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the All Things Book Show, and today I've got a author and writing coach, Janet Pywell, to interview, so I'll bring her in now. Hello, Janet.
Hello. Hi.
Good to see you.
Well, thank you. Firstly, thank you very much for inviting me on your show today. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. So Janet Pywell has done an MA in creative and a BA in creative writing, and she now is a sessional lecturer at Canterbury University. Is that right?
Yes, Canterbury Christchurch University.
Canterbury Christchurch University on the MA and BA programs. She's written both thrillers and contemporary romance. She has also written 10 Simple Steps to Writing a Book, and actually we'll talk more about that probably than anything else, but we will actually ask her a little bit about her writing career to start with. So as I said, welcome, Janet, and I'll start off by saying you've written 7 thrillers featuring a protagonist called Mickey dos Santos, who is a female, I understand. Tell us, just in case people confuse the word Mickey, so tell us a little bit about her and about that series.
Well, Mickey dos Santos is quite an interesting protagonist, actually. I wanted someone who was quite different, not like a normal sort of detective-led crime thriller hero or heroine. So mine is, Mickey is an artist, art forger, and a photographer. She's had a very interesting life. She's actually adopted, and she was adopted by a couple who actually took her to Spain, and they didn't really look after her. And it's actually a bit of a complicated story, and that story is told in the prequel, which is called The Golden Icon. So I started writing The Golden Icon when I was doing my dissertation for my MA. And my protagonist in that was a early 50-year-old opera diva called Josephine Lavelle. And although she was a very interesting character, I really didn't feel that I could sustain her for a whole series of books. But she was interesting enough that I wanted to keep it in the whole series. So without giving too much away, the first book actually deals with Mickey meeting Josephine Lavelle and how they actually meet, because in this first book, Mickey is about to steal Vermeer's the concert, and the concert is one of the most famous stolen paintings in the world that has never ever been recovered, and obviously one of the most expensive paintings that's never been recovered. So it was stolen from the Isabella Stewart Museum. So I got the idea from an article that I was reading about all these 13 stolen artifacts stolen from this museum in Boston on St. Patrick's Day. And they were stolen to order, there were other more expensive things in the museum, but they weren't taken. And to this day, the Vermeer painting still remains missing. So I thought it'd be a good idea to write about that. And Mickey actually, in my book, Mickey finds it, and she's going to make a forgery of it and replace it, swap it over. And then in theory, she's going to end up, with a lot of money, and she'll be able to lead the life she wants to lead. So she's on the verge of being a crook, to be honest. And in this book, you see there is a softer side to her. She's very damaged. She's very hurt. Her body is a canvas of artwork. So she's got Edvard Munch's The Scream at one arm. She's got the severed head of John the Baptist across her breasts and all the veils that Salome would have danced in around her waist. So her body is just a colourful plethora of artwork, which is really interesting as well.
And expensive.
And expensive, yeah. But you see, like all 30-year-olds, they earn a bit of money, they get a tattoo, and it's quite on trend as well. I think a lot of more people have tattoos now than ever before, and they are creative works of art. And I've done a lot of research, obviously, with those sort of things as well. So I wanted a character that was going to sustain me through, a whole series of 6 or 7 books. So she's interesting enough. And we watch her progress through the series, from going from stealing the stolen artwork from Masterpiece right through to being involved in becoming a consultant, if you like, for the police, the International Police Force, in Europe. So she ends up working for the police in Europe, then, on the side of the police, sort of tackling crime, and she comes up against drug addicts, human traffickers, and the books happen all over Europe. So each book is situated in normally 3 different countries.
So she moves from the dark side to the light side.
She does.
In Star Wars terminology.
Yeah, she has to. I mean, I think everybody, or not everybody, most people who read crime novels, middle of the road crime novels like that I would write, they want the good to win, don't they? At the end of it, they want that sort of vengeance. They want the retribution. They want all the excitement, all the action. And she's like a female James Bond. I mean, she gets into some really sort of hairy sort of situations in a gyrocopter. She's kidnapped, and all sorts of things happen to her throughout the series. She falls in love.
So are these like action-packed thrillers as opposed to cozy mystery type?
They are quite action-packed, yes. I mean, right up to the last book, Broken Windows, where she's working with a group of kids who do parkour, and these kids are taken over to Morocco, and they're doing parkour for a film over there.
You're going to have to explain what parkour is. I've no idea.
It's all the running that the kids do up the side of the buildings. They just run and jump all over the buildings, and they just all go, yes. So I think they used in one of the James Bond films as well. They used parkour, which is really impressive to watch. And I think when I write my novels, I obviously see them as a film inside my head anyway. So because I've got that sort of quick sort of agile mind, I'm thinking, let's get some action going in here, and but make it very tense, and bring in all the qualities that you need to bring in to have an exciting crime thriller.
So I take it you're a plotter.
Yeah, I am a plotter. I'm a plotter, but I think more than anything, I believe in structure, and I think once you have the structure sort of in your mind, then you can plot. I don't know what you do, and maybe are you a plotter or a straw? Or do you like structure?
To be honest, I'm more of a discovery writer, should I say?
Okay.
Which you could call pantser, but I think what I do is I start, then I sort of develop some sort of plot as I'm going along. So I think I do plot, and actually I'm moving over to plotting because I think it's probably more efficient use of my time than getting stuck in first drafts and discovery writing. But I do love discovery writing.
Yes, there's a place, I think, for it all, isn't there? Really? It's easier, I think, if you do that with a short story, because you haven't then got so much to go back and revise and start laying all the bread trails and everything else that you need to do for crime thrillers.
Exactly,
but I find it easier to plot and structure, and then within those parameters, of course, the characters are still going to do things that you don't expect. You end up writing this, but they sort of just take a life on its own, and then off they go, and you think, where am I going with this? So sometimes then you have to step back from it for a while and think, oh, hang on, I'm going to plot this one, I'm going to work this one out.
Yeah. I mean, I actually did. In fact, just over this weekend, I was stuck in the middle of my 11th. It's an 11th book in a series. And I was sort of stuck getting near the middle. And I decided, no, I'm going to plot this. So I've done a 3-act structure, which has guided me towards where I now need to go with it. So there you go. I'm moving over to plotting.
Yeah, I think that's good. I mean, I don't know. You've done quite a lot of novels though in your own way, but I think for me, it's certainly it makes sense. That snowflake method that they call it, isn't it? That you're just a little bit more organized and you develop on your ideas as you go through. And then it just makes life easier, I think, rather than then sort of getting 3/4 of the way through a book and then think, oh no, and I've got to go back, and you've got masses to change rather than just a little bit to change. But again, it all depends as well on what program you work in, because years ago when I started writing, probably like you, there was only Word was available, so you'd have to, the Word document, work out where your chapters were and where try and remember where everything was in your chapters. Whereas now with other programs, I use Scrivener, that it's so much easier. You can just write your scenes, label your scenes, and then transfer them as and where you want to, which makes life a lot easier as well.
Yeah, I use Scrivener. I'm a big fan of Scrivener. Right. So is that first series then? Is that finished? The 7-book series?
It is. It is. Yes. I mean, a lot of people have asked for more, and I want to.
As they do.
I don't know why I want. Yeah, as they do. And I'm not saying I'll never write anymore, but I think once you read the final book, you'll realise why I'm not writing anymore at the moment. But I can do. I actually could revive all that. But I'm the sort of writer that when I've done something that's completed, I want to move on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course it does. And many writers feel the same, I think. Readers obviously do like us to continue and continue.
Yes.
But there does come a day when you have to move on. So you moved on initially to Rhonda George. She looks like a fascinating character. Tell us a bit about her domestic thrillers.
Rhonda's my mate, Rhonda. Well, again, I wanted to have a different heroine to the one I had in my previous series, so I wanted to differentiate them. But she also had to have, strong character, strong traits, strong morals. So she's a kickboxing champion, and she's also a master chef. So her background is from the army, because that then gives her all the credentials to sort of have all the skill sets she needs in order to tackle crime. And having set the other books all around Europe, because I was living abroad for 20 years, so I've used my traveling, if you like, my living abroad experiences, and I put those all into the Mickey Dos Santos series. I thought that with Rhonda George, because I'm based now in the UK, it'd be really nice to have one set in Scotland, one set in England, and one set in Wales, just to sort of have a little trilogy going there. So I was trying to think of original places where you wouldn't really get a lot of crime. So I've set one in a pub in the countryside in Kent. I've set one in the Scottish castle up in Scotland, and I've set the third one in a monastery in Wales, because I thought, not likely to get a lot of crime in those sort of places, and what sort of person could get into all of those sort of places. And of course, it's somebody who is a very high class chef who's employed privately to go and do sort of catering function.
Okay, yeah, good,
so that's her way in, and she can recognise years then of whatever's going on. So that's my dog barking. Sorry, I've got a rescue dog from Ukraine, but she's lovely. She's just gorgeous. So I wanted a protagonist who could actually get into these places legitimately, without it being too contrived. So in the first book, she goes up to Scotland for to cater for a birthday party. In the second book, her ex-boyfriend comes back into the picture. He in the first book, he had abandoned her and taken her money and all sorts of things. So she's lacks confidence. So she starts gaining confidence in the first book. She also meets the same inspector from Europol that Mickey Dos Santos was working with in her series, because I didn't know at one stage if I would then write more about more women who go work with Inspector, and then they might all come together for a super series at one stage. So there's always that possibility as well. So she ends up working for this inspector from Europol as well, and she goes undercover to because there's this naughty deal going on with bitcoins and social media influencers. And I thought, again, that was very topical. That's very on trend. There's a lot of
definitely
Bitcoin and social media influencers and things. So that was very relevant. And then for the third book, I like to drink wine, and I was looking at wine fraud. And I never knew there was so much.
Apparently.
I never knew. I never knew that. So I spent ages researching, and then I wrote the third book on the back of that as well. So that all takes place in a monastery. So that's all really quite interesting. So it was just doing something a little bit more offbeat. There's still a bit of edginess to it, but it's not like horrific violent crime. It is there's a hint of fear, obviously, which is what people want when they're reading crime novels. And then there's obviously the sort of whodunit side of things.
So they're not gruesome. They're not gruesome.
No, they're not gruesome. They're I think they're quite realistic. I mean, you need some sort of element of danger, otherwise people aren't going to believe what you're writing either. So there is an element of danger, there's an element of fear, there's fights sometimes, or the people are tied up or something, or but it's not so gruesome. It's not one of those gory sort of novels or anything. Otherwise, so
they're not murder mysteries, they're more crime.
Yeah, they're crime action adventure. Action adventure sort of thing. Yeah. It's a bit like James Bond. You know that it can be awful, but you never actually sort of experience it all, because it's just a bit of fun, I think, as well. That's what I want to have, a bit of fun with it all.
Okay. And then suddenly you've got this switch where you started life out writing contemporary gay romance with Ella Bravo, and then you went to thrillers, and now you've gone back again I could call it contemporary gay romance, I assume, with a book called Someone Else's Dream. So what happened there with the switches?
What happened there? Well, I always want to write something a bit different. I always think, when sometimes, I don't know about you, but you go through the library or you look online or you go to a bookshop and you think, same old. I've read so many books the same as you have, and I think, I just want to read something a bit different, something a bit, that's not in just the normal sort of categories of everything. So I thought, if it's not out there, then I'll write it myself. I wanted to actually just write a love story between two people, regardless of sex, in a funny sort of way, and how they can meet in a normal sort of environment. So when I wrote Ellie Bravo, I set that in Belfast, that book, when I was living there. And it's about the love and that grows from friendship between two people in an office, and one woman is married and then obviously unhappily married and has a daughter. And I just wanted it to be like a normal sort of story. There's also some crime going on in the office where they work. There's a worm infiltration in their IT system, because the BizNet solutions, BizWeb IT consultancy. So there's this dominator worm that there's which provides another plot line, if you like. So I just wanted to write something that I thought would open people's minds. It was about the time that civil ceremonies in Northern Ireland, and now obviously you can get married over there, and I just thought it'd be a good thing to write at that time. And then I obviously went back to my crime novels, because I just wanted to write the Nikki Dos Santos. I got really into her character and how she develops throughout the book and changes and her path. And then I did the Rhonda George. And then it was during lockdown, when everything was so miserable and people were locked in. And I wanted to write something a bit more uplifting, something a bit more heartwarming, something a bit more fun, something still with its challenges, but with strong characters who had different sort of emotional problems, and I think falling in love as well is about who you fall in love with. It doesn't matter about their sex or their identity and their gender and all of these names and labels that we have now. It's just about falling in love. And that's what I wanted to write about. So I wrote Someone Else's Dream, and I'm thrilled with it. I've had an amazing amount of feedback from it. I'm currently writing a TV pilot script to send off to streaming channels to see if they're interested, because it does have that lovely sort of feel to it. It's set in this harbour street in a town very like Whitstable. The cover is obviously Whitstable, if you've ever been here, famous for its oysters.
And is that where you're going now? Contemporary romance, be it whatever sex, or are you going back to crime?
No, I think I'm currently writing Someone Else's Child, because I think I'm going to do a series now. Someone Else's Dream, Someone Else's Child. Haven't decided on the third title yet. And Someone Else's Child, I'm currently halfway through the first draft. I've done about 40,000 to 50,000 words. And it's about foster children and refugee children and foster care mothers.
So that's the road you're going down at the moment. Yeah.
I think so. I want to write things that are more uplifting, and the feedback that I'm getting as well from a lot of new writers, because you obviously get an overlap from crime writers and contemporary romance writers, readers. Sorry, but obviously you've got to find a whole new market as well for the contemporary love stories, which is currently at the moment. I'm growing that list massively at the moment, which is great. I think there's a big need at the moment for people who want to feel good after reading, but they want to put that down and think, oh, that was lovely. Or, I get messages and people say, I cried at the end of that. It was such a lovely story. I couldn't stop crying, and I'm still thinking about it a week later. And
that's nice. Okay, so that's your writing life. Actually, before we move on to your coaching, what's your writing process? Do you write every day? Because obviously you work and teach as well.
What's my process? Well, I teach. I'm a sessional tutor, so I only teach probably one morning a week or something like that, which suits me fine. And then the MA is online most of it at the moment, so that's probably a couple of hours a month. So it's not massive amounts. It doesn't detract massively from my writing. It does, however, keep me in touch with students, and I love to talk to students. I love hearing their ideas. I love helping them, with their work and seeing the results and how they improve their writing as well. I get an amazing amount of satisfaction from that. And so what I obviously as a self-published author, you'll know yourself, you've got lots of marketing to do, lots of promotions, there's always something going on, emails, and feedback from readers. You've got, your own newsletters to send to your own fans and things like that. So there's all of these things going on that have to be maintained. So it's like, juggling plates sometimes. But when I set myself a goal to write a book, I normally set a 3-month window. And during that time, I'll try and work Monday to Friday, and I'll try and do at least 2,000 words a day. And set myself a target. Sometimes if it's going particularly well, I might get 5,000 words one day, but then the next day I might have to take the dog to the vet or something like that. And
life happens.
Life gets in the way sometimes. So
it does.
It's just how it is. But yes, I can normally finish a book at the first draft. That's the first draft in 3 months. And then obviously you go back and you do your rewrites, and then you get your beta readers to read it. And then it has to go off to your editor. And then it all comes back. And by the time you've done all the rewrites. So yeah, I can easily do a book a year. Sometimes I have done 2 books in a year if I've not had during lockdown, for example.
And how long are your books? What word?
The Mickey Dos Santos ones, these are 80,000 words, just over 80,000. The Rhonda George ones are smaller because I wrote those in lockdown. I wrote those in about 18 months, and they're 60,000 words, a little bit shorter. But then back to Someone Else's Dream, they'll be around about 80,000 words, just over.
Right, so now I'm going to move on to your life as a writing coach, and also this short book you've written called 10 Steps to Writing Your Novel. Are you happy to give us a brief overview of the 10 steps?
Yes,
for anyone who might be considering writing a book for the first time?
Of course I am. Let me just get it down here. I mean, it's a very thin book.
I noticed 60 pages I saw.
Absolutely. I mean, because to be honest with you, there's so much information on the internet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Course,
there's so much free information. Some of it's good, some of it's not so good. So you've got to cipher through it. And sometimes people get bombarded with it all, you know, and they want to know really what works for somebody. And rather than writing, you know, a massive book saying, oh, it's really, you know, rocket science, you need a, you know, a degree in Mensa to sort of, you know, be able to do this. It's not. Some people have a book inside them. Some people have a trilogy inside them. It's just a case of extracting that information and helping them put it in an order so that they can make some sense of it. And that's all really I wanted to do with this. And I had a lot of people contacting me, especially in the last few years, I suppose, because of my teaching. I'm more aware of when I started out, you know, 15, 20 years ago, there was not that information. There was nobody there to help you. I've had to find it all out myself. And now I'm thinking, well, let me try and help other people. So I published this in April. And I thought if I just keep it really, really simple, you know, and start off with the basics of the, you know, writing tools like we already discussed. I mean, some people don't know about some of the programs you can buy, you know, or download for free. And there's sort of programs that will help you. And once you start working with them or any of the other programs that, you know, that people are comfortable with, that helps you organize your work. And when your work is organized, your head is more organized, you know. I talk in here as well about, you know, the elevator pitch, you know, what your book is about. And, you know, that's based a little bit on the snowflake method where you sort of say, oh, you know, Mickey Dos Santos is a, you know, photographer, artist, art forger who's about to steal the world's famous stolen painting. But will it give her what she really needs? Will it give her love, you know, which is what she really craves? So, you know, a small sort of like elevator pitch. And then you expand on that, and then you expand on that a little bit more, and then you start building in your characters and things like that. Then I talk about characters, how important characters are, and a strong main character is very important, as is a strong anti-hero, because they have to be worthy of each other. They have to be worthy rivals in order to make that sort of connection. And that's where you find a lot of successes, you know. Like with Batman and Joker, and you know, you find it all the way down, don't you, in all the different, all the popular books. But you always find that you know, James Bond books again. But you need somebody who is flawed, and the thing is you need a flawed hero or heroine, because nobody's perfect, and we all have our failings, every single one of us. But the flaw has to be believable, and it has to be overcome, and the main protagonist has to learn from that. And equally, the anti-hero is not always a bad person, you know, not always through and through and through. You know, sometimes they're very charming. They can disguise their badness. You know, like a narcissist, I always think is a perfect example. You know, of a baddie, if you like, for want of a better word, because you know they exude all the charm, and they can seduce people into thinking this, seduce people into thinking something else, and they manipulate. And people don't realise sometimes that they're being manipulated. And so I've used that especially in one of my books set in Greece, Stolen Script. He's a really nasty narcissist, because you know that those sort of characters or those sort of people can easily sort of bring you into their way of thinking and mislead you, and they can also affect how other people regard you. You know, you know, they can taint your image through blurring your character.
We've all worked with people like that.
And this is it, I think. And I think, Dawn, by bringing in these sort of characters, when people are reading it, they can identify, you know, themselves with these sort of characters that I bring into the book, because you know they're not people that you know, they are people that you would, you know, meet yourself on a normal day, and you've got to work out who's really good and who's really bad, and you know, what do they want out of you, and that sort of thing. What have you got to offer them? What have you got to give them? Or maybe they just genuinely like you, and you can have a drink and have some fun together. So it's a bit like that as well, isn't it? So it's finding those strong characters, I think. And I think when you find the right characters, then you find your storyline will come together, and the idea of any story is to be engaging, because you've got to engage the reader, and that's the most important thing. You've got to, and to engage the reader, you have to be entertaining. They want entertaining. They're reading to be entertained, you know, in one form or another. So it's all of those qualities that you need to work out, and sometimes you can do that in advance by plotting things. Sometimes So we said before, didn't we? The characters take off, lead you on a right old merry old dance, and you have to sort of get yourself out of that. So characters are very important. I talk about locations. Locations. I said Mickey's books all over Europe, and then the George series in the UK. But locations, not just their exotic locations or awful locations sometimes, but it's also conversations and scenes. Where would that scene be more effective? Is it better in somebody's kitchen, or is it better walking in the woods? Is it better in the morning? Is it better at night? What sort of drama do you want to create there? For your main characters, is it a romance, and is it a crime novel? And sometimes with my students, I can look at one image, and I can say from that, write a crime novel, a crime scene from that, or write the threads of a love story from that same image. And, it's quite an interesting thing for students to do as well.
And also for some people with location, it's about escapism, isn't it? Nobody particularly wants to read about a slum. I mean, obviously slums can do feature in books and are important, but actually people want to go to places they've never visited, like your places in Europe and a monastery and all those places. Not many people get the inside view of those kinds of places. So
you made a good point there, because as well, the thing is that crime and romance can take place in science fiction novels or science fantasy novels. Do you know what I mean? They're themes that can run in any type of book, because people would say to me, "Oh, you write crime novels, then you can't help me." I said, "Well, of course I can, because the same baddies and goodies appear in science fiction and science fantasy. So does love and romance. So once you have those core skills of writing like that, you can set it anywhere. You can make it, like you say, as exciting as you want to. You can fantasize and make up your own world if you want to. And then it all boils down again then to your style, your tone, the themes that you use, and then bit by bit, we introduce those sort of things, which gives substance, to your work. So is there a message that you want to get across? Is there a theme that you're trying to say of revenge, or this shouldn't happen? Is there a moral aspect to your story? And it's fantastic. I've got some incredible people taking my course, because it is a one-to-one mentoring. It's not just here's a ton of information, read all this and get on with it. I actually work with the people, and I read their work, I give them feedback on it. We have meetings like this to all out and work out where it's all going, that sort of thing. So I work with different people for different things, but it's so interesting and a really enjoyable thing to do.
Okay, so I think I've got about five points of these 10 steps.
We got the plot and the subplot, research, editing and rewriting, and then structure, characters, plot and subplot, location, style, tone and themes, research, editing, rewriting, and then there's the overview and obviously the introduction. So it's just a brief boom all the way through to help people, so they can go to one source. One source where it's all there, and it's not too thick. They don't have to wade through it all and think, this is confusing. Didn't you? It's just, and at the end of each chapter, there's a task to do, a simple task, so that they can, that will help them on with the next stage of their.
Yeah, because I don't know about you, but when I did my MA and I waded my way through plotting, structuring books, and some of them were. Some of them were this thin and some of them were that thick.
I know.
And you think, really? By the time I've read a few chapters, I've lost
You give up the will, don't you? You give up the will because they're giving you this example, that example. And you think, well, people can realise their own examples from their own reading history, because we don't all read the same things and we don't all watch the same television. And there's so much more choice now than there was all those years ago as well for Netflix and everything else that's going on. So, people will draw their own, and they'll think, oh, yeah, I know, that's in that book they did this, or in that film they did that. Oh, I know in that series this happens. And, people know what a cliffhanger is, and they all know what suspense is. So a lot of people know a lot of the terminology and the principles of it anyway. And it's just a case of really the discipline to sit down and do it.
So if somebody wants a writing coach, they can contact you.
JanetPywellAuthor.com.
Yeah, and I'll put a link to that in the bottom.
Click on a link to subscribe, and then they'll get more information about me, about the course, and about everything. You know, there's no compromise. They can read all of that information. They can listen to some of the work I've done, because I've done radio dramas as well. I've written plays for the Playhouse down here in Whitstable during lockdown as well. I've written monologues there. So, you know, I give a broad range of, you know, my writing credentials, if you like.
You say you're on social media. What platforms of social media can people find you on?
I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Twitter. Jan Pywell Author. So I'm on all of those sites.
I'll also put a link to your Amazon pages so that people can have a look at your book. Well, I think we're coming to an end. Is there anything else that you want to say about your writing life? Any advice you would give to people watching this show, and a book recommendation?
I think, you know, a lot of people say, oh, well, I'm not sure what I want to write. I'm not sure what I want to write. And I would say to them, I think one of the best pieces of advice is to think about, well, whatever book you're writing, where do you see it on the bookshelf? When you finish writing it, who do you want it sitting alongside? Because I teach crime thrillers on the MA at Canterbury Christchurch, you know, I read a lot of books by, say, Lucy Foley, who I like very much, or Ellie Griffiths, people like that. And it's about reading and getting to know how those plot structure works, because there are plot structures for different genres. And once you understand structure, and once you understand that, you can't go wrong. It's a bit like your 3-act structure we were talking about. Once you know where to put the most important bits, and you have the crescendo, and you think that, oh, nothing else can go wrong, and then suddenly it does. Oh, they're going to, all right, nothing else can go wrong. Oh, yes, suddenly it gets worse. And just when you think they're going to get that, oh, you got that final thing of something going really, really wrong, and you think, oh, no. And you've got to put, whether it's a love story, whether it's a crime novel, whether it's sci-fi, it doesn't matter. You've got to put your characters into these situations where the reader's going to think, oh my gosh, how are they ever going to get out of that? How are those two people ever going to get together or fall in love? How are they ever going to escape from this scenario? Because as a writer, you've got to sort of have the ending, and then when you've got the ending, you then sort of can lay all the bread trails so that when the actual finale happens, the reader can look back and go, oh wow, yeah, all the clues were there. That's right, that's right, that's right. And they get the sense of satisfaction because they didn't see it coming. And that's why I love all these twists and turns. And they all say to me, oh, we never saw yours coming. But the clues are all there when they look back and they, oh, you're right, it was. I just never saw it, because you've got to put in that extra final twist at the end. Just when you put them going down this pathway, you've got to throw them right off centre and them thinking, oh, no. So it's all of that fun that you can start playing with the readers, and they love that. I think they really love that challenge.
Yeah. Okay. And have you read a book recently that you would recommend people read?
I read The Binding very recently. I'm trying to think who wrote The Binding. And it was a very unusual book, all about a bookbinder, obviously. A very, very strange story. And a very good friend of mine who's an avid reader walked in and said, oh, I couldn't bear that book. But then right beside it on the shelf was Where the Crawdads Sing. And then we both agreed that was a really, really good book. And they've just made a film of that now. But
I saw that, because that's become a very popular book again.
Yes, it has. I love the book. I'm not sure about the film, because, you know, it's like when you like a really good book and you've got it in your head how you think it is. And then sometimes in the film, it doesn't always, you know, match up. But the reviews for the film have been good. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I think, thank you for joining us, and thank you for telling us about your writing life, and thank you for telling us a little bit about writing structure. And it's been an absolute pleasure to interview you. So I'm going to just remove you from my screen and
thank you very, very much.
End the program. So that was an interview with Janet Pywell. If you want to find out more about Janet, you can take a look down below. You'll find links to her work and also to her website, where you can contact her if you're interested in having her as a writing coach. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for listening.